everyone, today we are going to be going through the Tommee Tippee Wearable and why it is not a pump purchase I'm going to be recommending for you. This is actually going to have to end up being a two-part video because there is so much to cover that it's just going to be way too long of a video. So today's part is going to be just the nitty-gritty facts, why it's not recommended, what's happening, and what my testing shows, along with my clients' feedback as well as my own, because at this point there is a lot of data backing this video. The second part will be Tommee Tippee Made and their stance and opinions, along with my testing and showing in detail how I got the testing, what that all looks like, and yeah, going into that. So, just diving straight in. Originally, when this pump launched a little over a year ago now, I actually didn't mind it. It was not my favorite. It was not going to replace a lot of the pumps that I was using at the time, but it worked. And it worked for a lot of moms. We didn't actually see a lot of issues. In the beginning, there was some issues with the app that had issues with Bluetooth connectivity, but it was not widespread. We didn't have a ton of complaints about that. It was just kind of a minor inconvenience here and there. That changed in November. So in November, we had an update that happened. The company originally said it was a firmware update too, but then they retracted that and said they didn't update the firmware, so who's to know? But at bare minimum, we had a app update that's proven. And in November, I went to test the pumps for a client. She was saying that she was having a lot more issues out of her pump and not responding. And she didn't know if anything had changed. So, doing my due diligence, turned on the pump, and I actually got this white light. It's not the normal light. There is nothing in the manual explaining what this light was, because that was the first thing I did was, oh, that's new. Went to the manual. There was nothing there in that manual at the time that came with the pumps, and the pump was completely unresponsive. I could not turn it off. I couldn't turn it on. In terms of getting the suction to start, it was just a bright light. At that point, I pulled out my phone because, of course, I was not originally using the app, and went through the process and the hassle of getting it to connect, and suddenly it had an update. It went through, updated, said that it had changed over to this particular firmware, and the white light turned off. Okay, that's new, but it just needed to update. Good to know. I, like any Willow user, is very skeptical of any and all updates, so immediately started testing it. My pumps originally worked. I prefer a very high suction level. The Tommee Tippee pump originally could reach those upper 200 and above suction levels, and suddenly this time the pump was barely functioning for me. I did not respond to it anymore. It was almost like it had no suction. So took it off, changed out parts, and did all of that. Still didn't have any suction. I went ahead and put the Medela gauge to it to confirm what I was feeling, and sure enough, there was no suction on it. I went ahead and contacted customer service because, well, like anyone with a warranty pump, that's what you're gonna do. The girl was initially very nice, but her email never came through, so I had to recontact them the next day. All of a sudden, I get a follow-up email that showed she emailed me, which is not the first time Tommee Tippee's had issues, but we just went along with it. So they ended up replacing my pumps because they did not have the suction. Or when I discussed the light and the app and everything else, they confirmed like, oh yeah, it needed to update. You know, it should be fine. Okay, well, new pumps come in. The light did not automatically kick on. I figured out a way to force it, which Tommee Tippee was not happy about. But either way, got it connected to the app. I actually ended up testing those pumps before and after connecting to the app, and saw wildly different responses. Before connecting to the app, they actually ran through their levels pretty closely to what I would pretty close to what I was expecting them to do. Once I connected them to the app, it went haywire, and they started getting stuck in higher suction levels. So if I was on like level 5, it was sometimes reading up to level 7 suction. And then if I turned it down to level 3, it was still reading level 7 or 5 or whatever it decided to land on suction. So that was an issue. Reached out, contacted customer service. There was a ton of back and forth. They decided to go ahead and send me another set of pumps. New pumps come in, same situation. At one point, I don't remember which set it was. I want to say it was the first set. Maybe it was the second set that they sent me as a replacement. But I did take this video just really quickly. It came dirty. Like, there's manufacturing debris, there's dust, there's cardboard. Like, it was just dirty. Obviously, nobody had used the pump. It was a brand new pump. But you can tell it's definitely been sitting there in some type of dirty environment. These boxes are not actually sealed. They just have some stickers there. And those stickers are typically broken in shipping at minimum. It was just kind of a turnoff. Especially when in the past we've had to explain to moms what that debris is, because they do panic and they feel like they just got a used pump. Same thing. It was inconsistent in the readings. I had one pump that was low in suction and another pump that was getting stuck in really high suction, all of which was related to the app. At that point, none of my pumps that I had in my possession wanted to even connect to the app. They certainly did not stay connected. I had to repair every single pump, typically through a minute or two process, because I had to sit there and try multiple ways to get them to even read as available on the Bluetooth for my phone. It was just quite a hassle trying to get through all of that. Customer service had no answers. At that point, I had been requesting quite a bit to just be connected to Tommee Tippee, because of course they are a third-party customer service. They weren't actually with the company. So I was just asking, like, hey, please connect me to your Tommee Tippee team. Like, y'all have clearly maxed what you're able to do. I need to get this figured out. Let's work through this. At that point, I already had a couple of clients kind of coming forward like, hey, I'm having issues. This is going on. This is happening over here. I'm not responding to it anymore, or it's suddenly painful. Should I check my flange sizing? Like, I was getting constant reports while also trying to figure out my own pump and figure out what was going on with the company. And they would not connect me to Tommee Tippee. So finally, after contacting their LC and telling her what was going on with everything, she ended up getting me in contact with the Tommee Tippee people, which is completely backwards. I should not have to reach out to their contracted LC as a LC to LC thing to get any type of a response from the company. So that's a red flag. Went through that process, started working with Tommee Tippee and Mayborn from then forth, and still did not have answers. They started denying that there were any updates on the firmware and all of this stuff. A lot of the parts regarding the company itself and Tommee Tippee will be in that part 2 video. But let's just say it was a hot mess express. I, at that point, was thoroughly frustrated, could not get answers, decided I was going to do my own testing, since obviously the company did not show any interest in trying to help these moms. And that's exactly what I did. These are just a few clips, because you have to keep in mind at some point I had over 8 Tommee Tippee wearable pumps in my possession. I currently only have 2. I sent the rest back. I would have sent them all back in a timely manner, but they did not give me the shipping label until like 2 months in. Jumping over here, these are just a few of the videos showing the readings on the gauge. In these videos, you can see some dragging of the needle for the Medela gauge. In some areas, you can see the readings that I'm getting between extremely low on level 8 or extremely high on level 8. All of which was volatile. There's even a video here. I'm not touching the pump at all. It's just going through its cycles, and it's turned down to its lowest setting, and it's just naturally depressurizing. It's not actually the pump doing its job and dropping the pressure. I even have this photo and video, hope you enjoy it, of squishing the duckbills, because for some reason the duckbills already have an additional hole in them, which is quite odd. I will cover that in part 2. But yeah, one of the suggestions was, well, did you squeeze the duckbill to make sure they opened? No, but I can. So, being thorough and testing, that's what we did. Here's a video. And then, yeah, then we kicked over to mechanical testing. So before we go to the mechanical side of things, what I did for these two is you can see that I was stepping up every single pump from either massage or level 1. So the 3 lines that you see that do not start with the rest of them were done manually without the app. So that does not provide massage mode. Because that was one of the things Tommee Tippee did. They decided that you can't have all of their features unless you have the app. So I tested without the app, and that is what those shorter lines are, those 3 pumps. The rest of them were all started with the app from massage mode all the way up to level 8. What you can see here is I stepped them up for a set amount of time, took the readings from the high and the low, and then started walking them down, and I timed it. So for example, if I went from level 8 to 7, I timed how long that typically took. It was typically between 10 to 20 seconds for it to step down to the suction level 7 that pump had told me was normal on the walk up. So I have all the timings there. What you're seeing in this graph is what each suction level provided on the walk up, and then just how much it widely varied. As you can tell, none of these actually line up and look the way they're supposed to. This second graph here is actually just 2 pumps ran 3 different ways. The broken lines with the dash and a dot, those 2 are the 2 pumps ran manually, where I was just pressing the buttons on the physical pump. The 2 bright solid color lines that match the colors of the broken lines are those pumps with the Tommee Tippee app. And then the more dull colored lines are those same pumps used through third-party apps that Tommee Tippee then decided to let me know they were using. So not only are these pumps controlled through a Tommee Tippee app, you can apparently connect them to specific Chinese data mining apps that typically control like Bluetooth, lighting, sound, things like that for your home. I remember explicitly testing the pump back when it worked on data. I did not have Wi-Fi on my phone. I know this because I was out with my family. We were doing putt-putt golf and having a family day, and I was testing this pump while driving, while parked, all of the things, and controlling it with my phone. So there was no Wi-Fi required at that time. Since November, the pump does not operate unless you're using the buttons. Like it will not operate unless you have Wi-Fi. That is a very big change and a very big difference. One of the things between UK and other countries and the US actually has really bad Wi-Fi. I'm sure all of our US moms are like, yep, it is extremely unstable. Even our data on our phones can be very unstable. So we need a pump that can do both. We don't need a pump that requires Wi-Fi only. There are a lot of situations where Wi-Fi is not available. I live out in the country. I have data more often than I have Wi-Fi. So the fact that it can no longer operate that way is a problem. That also keeps you locked into needing Wi-Fi and everything else to make sure that they can kick through their updates. Because 9 times out of 10, a pump company will not upgrade their firmware and software over data. It's unstable. It's volatile. So they don't want that halfway updating and then something dropping out. That's why things are required to be hooked up to Wi-Fi to update. So Tommee Tippee took that option away. Now we only are allowed to use the pump with the app off Wi-Fi. As you can tell, all of those readings are wildly different for the exact same pumps. Each run of this pump provided a different level of suction every single time without fail. You can see it there. What was interesting about that is you can see that there was a lot lower suction consistently with the third-party Chinese apps than the Tommee Tippee app or even the manual buttons. But those apps actually worked better with the pump. It was really odd. The pumps were extremely responsive. The buttons actually worked pretty quickly, and it connected via Bluetooth very easily, where I had been struggling for months at this point with all of these pumps in the Tommee Tippee app. These Chinese apps picked them up really quickly. Then you can also see on the Tommee Tippee side that the readings were higher, more volatile in a lot of areas, and it still didn't match to the manual. So this is just their suction patterns alone. I have some video clips here showing low readings, high readings that I was getting with these pumps, including one that was in the 300 mmHg. That is breaking the FDA clearance. So this pump was actually only FDA cleared for 253 mmHg. So for anyone that's getting a lot of pain with your Tommee Tippee, I will link a video down in the description below of how to test that. Yeah, if your pump is not responding, technically you can report that to the FDA. I'll also link a video on how to do all of that. Typically, y'all see me doing teardown videos on this channel. It is strictly for educational purposes. Sometimes it's for videos like this where I need to explain how and why something is working the way it does. What you don't typically see is I actually have equipment to sit here and test the mechanical functions of these pumps on the inside. When we have an issue, I'm testing that, and that is what I'm showing here. So here's just a little bit of the process. I actually ended up testing them 2 different ways. This particular pump has built-in testing leads on the panel, so you don't actually have to take it apart and flip it around to test everything, but just to make sure all of my I's are dotted and T's are crossed, I still did it the complicated way and flipped them around too to make sure that there was no discrepancy in these readings. And there wasn't. And that is where these charts came in. So this is a graph of the valve as I'm stepping up in the suction level, so from massage all the way up to level 8. As you can tell, there is a lot of irregularities between each pump and each level. This is a chart showing that valve reading as I'm stepping those pumps down in level. And you can see that they all kind of just decided where they were going to sit and just varied from there. Clicking over, this is the motor voltage as we're walking up from massage to level 8. You can see that they all pretty closely track. The motor was not horribly far off. Next, this is the motor voltage as we were walking it down. Some irregularities here that you can see, but again, the motor was not as volatile as their solenoid valve. Next thing I wanted to check was, okay, what are the ohms on these mechanical parts? So the valve ohms were pretty consistent. There was some variation, but what I would call within normal. The motor, that you can tell, was all over the place. We had one outlier that was extremely high compared to the others, some that were extremely low, and then some that seemed like that might be the normal, but we don't actually know. If Tommee Tippee wanted to be very transparent and provide what the manufacturer actually cleared this pump and its mechanical components to perform at, then that would let us know really quick and in a hurry whether or not this is actually operating appropriately or not. But given the wild inconsistencies here and that every single run is something totally different, I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're never going to show us that data because it definitely proves that this pump is not working. Just to kind of summarize part 1, The Tommee Tippee pump used to work. It doesn't work anymore. There was a app at minimum update, even though the app says there was also a firmware update. The company does not acknowledge that. It can go from extremely low suction to extremely high suction and get stuck in that higher level suction, which means you're likely going to sustain nipple trauma and damage. And that's going to be very uncomfortable trying to remove from your breast, because we actually have seen clients that we ask them to test with a baby bottle to show like the suction of things, because of course moms don't have mid-deli gauges laying around to test that. And yeah, some of those were extremely painful to watch, and that wasn't even a human body it was attached to. The app issues are all over the place. Apparently you can use them with Chinese apps as well, which is very unique to Tommee Tippee. There's just a lot of red flags. The part 2 video is going to be filled of all of the drama, come with all of the receipts, and I will go into how I got these charts made. I'll show you the actual data points, what all of that look like. Because the pump is so volatile, there is no consistency with it. There is no end in sight to it being fixed. And a lot of these pumps are arriving dead on arrival now because they're so old and not selling. I don't recommend spending your money on this pump. It is not going to do anything other than just waste your money and your time and your milk. So, if you do need a pump recommendation and you were looking at the Tommee Tippee, please don't buy it. Go ahead and jump into the wearable pump paperweight prevention group, and we can make recommendations, help get you pointed to more reliable and consistent pumps, and help you make an informed decision.